Hello everyone, my name is Stephen Langley. I have been tasked with implementing a new mechanic designed by one of my peers into this tile-based project. The mechanic I've introduced is called the weak tile mechanic. This mechanic was originally designed by Arthur Marquis. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at what the mechanic does. Now originally, Arthur made this mechanic to where if you stepped on these little cracked tiles, that it would fall apart and turn into a pit tile. So let's go ahead and check it out. Now, as you can tell, when you step on the tile, a sound goes off, and then once you move off, it turns into a spike tile instead of a pit tile. This tile is actually something new that I implemented into this project and mechanic. If the player was to step back on the spike tile, the game will reset, like so. Also, I added, not just that, but I also wanted to make something a little different for it. So once the player steps on, the sound makes. The player steps off, the sound goes off. It turns into a spike tile that will now reset the player if they step on. But I also added something else. I added to where if you was to put an interactable box onto it, a sound plays and the player can now move across the tile. Those were both something that was new, that was not on there originally by Arthur, so I wanted to go ahead and show you that to continue the gameplay. As you can tell, I also added other things in here, like assets and stuff, to show off the game. I also wanted to make the weak tiles a little bit more exciting than what they were before. Being able to move off of them and knowing that they only trigger after you move off of them is not very exciting. So up here in the right hand side, I added a little bit of excitement to the game. And once again, you see if you hit a tile or the spike tile that you will reset. But I wanted to add a little bit of excitement by making so many weak tiles there that as the player started walking out of the room, it would feel like the walls and the floor is falling apart. So, I'm pretty sure you guys want to know how I made this. So, let's get out of the standalone game mode. We will go in here and I will show you. These are the assets I imported to make it look better. The floor is a plank, of course, and these are stone. And then the painted stones are the interactable box. So, as you look at the weak tile, go in here and I showed a viewport, which I made just the weak. I just made some planes and some stuff like that to make the cracks in the box, or in the tile. If you look at the event graph, you'll see here, when the player enters it, it plays a sound, a creaked floor sound. That's all you need to know. But when the player leaves the tile, I wanted to add a little bit of a delay so that way they had time to move off of it. Once that's done, you will update to the spike tile. If there's no interactable, you don't need to worry about it. Make sure that the tile will update in game with this update tile function, and then also play the sound tile of it crashing down as it turns into the spike tile. Now, since we see that the spike tile is here, let's go ahead and once it's activated, it turns into this. The spike tile then does this. Once entered, it plays the regular function, but it will sense right here whether or not it is the player or the interactable box. If it is the player that steps onto the spike tile, it will cast to the game mode and reset the level or map. Now, if it is the interactable box, it goes and it runs this type of code. It plays the sound of the box falling into the spikes. It will turn into an updated tile. The interactable stays, and actually it disappears since there is already an update tile in there. It updates it inside game, and you can enter once it is updated. Now, since it changes it to the updated spike tile, let's take a look at the updated spike tile. The updated spike tile is just a box on some spike tiles like that. In the event graph, since it is just a box and everything, and you have already implemented the can enter on the spike tile, all you need to do is, since I made a child of the floor tile, all you need to do is just put the parent on the on entered and the parented on the exit. That way, when you move the player or another interactable box in and out of this tile, it works just like a regular floor tile, letting you move freely. Some challenges I faced in this was actually kind of a pain. It was kind of easy. At the same time, it was tedious because I had to make 3 different tile types. I wanted to make it to where if I wanted to use it like I did here, I could just use the spike tile and it was there. So that way the player kind of made it easier on them. They had to get past here, but then right here in between these 2 walls there was a spike, so they need to take an interactable box with them to pop in there to be able to transition into the last area to complete the game. Doing that, it was kind of a pain. I had trouble making the textures for the weak tile. Like I said, if you look at it in the viewport, you can see right here that it's actually a plane, and then all these other lines right here are actually planes themselves. I had trouble finding textures that were curvable, that looked like actual cracks. I looked at Arthur's, and his looked like a bunch of scribbles on it, and I didn't like it personally. So since we were able to change it, I went ahead and I made planes. That way I could come in here and change these cracks around all I wanted to. As you can see, some of these are not changed, some of these are changed. And I wanted them to be implemented like that in the game, so that way it wasn't just the same repeating one over and over like up here in the beginning, like up here in the start. With that being said, the other things that were hard to implement was I did have trouble trying to find this. I was trying to use a branch at first. That wasn't working very well. So I talked to the instructor, Dylan, and he was saying to go ahead and look up on the Switch. So when I looked up on the Switch, I noticed that there was, 3 different things that I could work with here. And I was like, all right, this is going to work perfectly. The player can go and reset the map, and the interactable can go and do whatever else it needed to do. Other than that, the animations came together really, really good. I didn't have to add any animations of it turning into an updated spike tile, considering that whenever you push the box in there and it changes it and updates it right here, it looks just like the box is falling down into the pit itself. And I really, really, really like the way it turned out. I did implement these assets once before. I tried to use the dungeon ones, but those didn't work and I couldn't figure it out. And then finally, when I re-looked at everything and took my time with it instead of being so excitable and ready to go, I noticed that there was an FBX format and I needed to implement that. So I went ahead and I went with something different because I saw a couple of the other classmates using the dungeon. So I went with the medieval stuff, and I went ahead and I downloaded the stones and some planks and bricks and stuff. Other than that, I really didn't want anything else. I just wanted to do this. The only other problem that I did have with this game overall was I was trying to fix the character. And for some reason, I kept trying to find these types of formats and stuff. And I would find them and I would download them, but they would not work for my character for some reason. So I just went ahead and I left it alone. I didn't want to mess anything up with it being so close to the deadline. So I hope you guys like it. And if you guys have any questions or anything, you can let me know. Thank you very much for your time.